They were not criminals. They were not dangerous. They just fell in love with the wrong person. And that was enough. They called it honor, but she called it love. And love was the only crime they committed. Watch what happens when a village decides it knows better. What if loving someone could cost you everything? In a quiet village where tradition rules over truth, two lives crossed a line they were never allowed to cross. No crime, no violence, just love. But in a world where honor is feared more than injustice, their story didn't end with freedom, it ended with judgment. This isn't just a story. It's a reality many are too afraid to speak about. And once you hear it, you won't forget it. In many parts of the world, life moves quietly. Fields grow, seasons change, and people live by traditions passed down through generations. But sometimes, beneath that quiet surface, there are rules no one dares to question. Rules about family, about status, about honor, and above all, rules about love. In this place, love is not always a blessing. Sometimes, it is a death sentence. She was born into a family that carried weight in the village. Landowners, respected, feared. Her world was protected, but also confined. She grew up surrounded by comfort, fresh clothes, prepared meals, servants who never spoke unless spoken to. But there were things she did not have. Freedom, choice, a voice. Her future had already been decided long before she understood what it meant. Marriage arranged. Life controlled. Sometimes, the richest homes build the strongest cages. He lived on the other side of the village, not behind walls, but beneath the open sky. His hands were rough from work, his clothes worn from long days in the sun. Every morning before sunrise, he would harness his donkey, load it with bricks, sand, or crops, and walk miles just to earn enough for the day. No land, no inheritance, no protection, only effort. In a place where status defines worth. He was invisible. It happened without warning. A glance. She looked up, just for a moment, and he looked back. It was not dramatic. No words were spoken, but something shifted. Narrator, softly. Sometimes, the most dangerous things begin quietly. They began to notice each other. At the well, on the road, across the fields. And then, slowly, carefully, they began to meet. They spoke about simple things. The weather, work, life. But beneath those words, something deeper was growing. They both knew the truth. This was not allowed. Not because it was wrong, but because it crossed a line the village had drawn long ago. She belonged to a family of power. He belonged to nothing. And in this world, that difference meant everything. Love does not ask permission. It does not wait for approval. It grows, even in the harshest conditions. They began to meet more often, in hidden places, at impossible hours. Every moment stolen from a world that would destroy them if it knew. For the first time, she felt alive. And for the first time, he felt seen. But love, in a place like this, cannot remain hidden forever. Rumors began to spread. Whispers turned into suspicion. Eyes began to watch. They knew what would happen if they were discovered. There would be no explanation, no forgiveness, only punishment. So they made a choice. Not because it was easy, but because it was the only way. They ran. They left everything behind. Family, name, identity. Life was not easy. There were days without enough food, nights filled with fear. But there was something they had never known before. Freedom. They were no longer separated by status. They were equals now, bound not by society, but by survival. Then, a child was born, a small life, carrying all their hope. In that moment, it felt like they had won. But the village had not forgotten. Honor, once challenged, demands an answer. They began to search. Across towns, through contacts, following whispers. Love had escaped, but it was still being hunted. It was an ordinary day, like any other. And then, everything changed. Men stormed inside, faces filled with anger, voices filled with judgment. There was no conversation, no chance to explain, only force. They were taken back, to the place they had escaped. The same fields, the same people, But nothing was the same anymore. This time, they did not return as children of the village. They returned as criminals. There was no court, no legal process, no defense, only a decision, made by those who believed they had the right. He was placed behind bars, not for a crime against the law, but for a crime against tradition. She stood alone. It happened in the late afternoon, when the day begins to fade, and shadows grow long. Their eyes were covered, as if removing their sight would make the act easier. Their only crime. We were choosing each other. No one stepped forward. No one spoke. Because in that moment, fear was stronger than humanity. And then, it ended. The crowd dispersed. Life continued, as if nothing had happened. But something remained. A child, left without parents. A life that would grow up, not understanding why love was punished. They called it honor. But what kind of honor? Demands blood? How many stories like this? Are they buried in silence? How many lives are erased for loving the wrong person? And in the end, we must ask, was it love that was wrong, or the world that refused to accept it?